Yeah, my timings were a wee bit off there. Just a few seconds. How is everybody? Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear. It's just me. All by myself. All alone. I'm just waiting for the Oz. Hope everybody's well. I cannot see chat at the moment. I can see chat now. I think that's my chat. I don't think that's Infinite Monkey Tails chat. I'm down to 2 monitors. Actually, a little bit difficult. Don't have as much space to put things in. I have to think about stuff, about where it needs to go. Just give me a second and I shall find Infinite Monkey Tails. There we are. That works. That works. That's good. And if I go in the next one, I see we've got viewers. Yay! And now, no swearing. How's it going, Strain? You got in first. You got in first, Strain. What we're going to do first of all, I think I'm going to break this up into sections, so I'm actually going to stop the stream after this. We're going to do a little bit of the next part, which we can go live. So yeah, good to hear. How's it going, Kadari? Hope your day finished well. You seem to be under the cosh a little bit. You were enjoying watching Rolls, who was playing a game I can't remember the name of. Control. Hey Jade, how's it going? Yeah, it's a different sketch today. And we're talking about planning. We're talking about setting up of games. And it was awful. And then you fell asleep. I've not had the luxury of my afternoon nap. Yes. Have, however, had a bit of retail therapy, which is keeping me on my toes. So that was fun too. We are looking at campaign planning. Specifically, we're looking at my favourite. We're looking at Sly Flourish's Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. You don't want to play it again. So there's the weekend. Hey, that's good. It did look nice, didn't it? I might have to check it out with my new graphics card. Anyway, we're not here to talk about virtual reality and 4K gaming and the madness of the prices of new graphics cards at the moment. We are talking about tabletop role-playing games. This is the thing that we do on this channel. And if you haven't already clocked, or indeed if you are watching this on YouTube, then you have found your way to a role-playing game community, tabletop role-playing game community, and we play about 3 to 4 games a week. Let's talk about dice. Roll a D36. So yeah, we're talking about the games. Now, we normally play on a Friday, and we normally play on a Saturday, and sometimes we play twice on a Saturday, and sometimes we play at least once on a Friday, and sometimes we also play on Mondays as well, and sometimes there are occasionally other things that happen through the week. Ange, how's it going? Yeah, you're way behind, but you'll be glad to know that Strain got in and said the word first. Well, in a sentence, along with "have I missed." The idea here is that normally we would be playing a game, but the game Casting the Runes that we were due to play was not it was in the schedule, but we never confirmed it, and things got ahead of ourselves. And we ended up not actually going for that because there was just too much to be done in too little time. And that happens sometimes. And then that got us on to thinking about, well, why did we not have enough people? And I said, well, one of the reasons I can't play is because I've got 2 games to prep for next week, and I need the Friday to do that because otherwise I'm going to be struggling. Hey, Minnie, how's it going? Oh, that reminds me, I should put a couple of announcements out onto Discord. So yeah, and I one of the things I wanted to do was some prep, and I thought, well, I keep talking about Sly Flourish's Lazy GM prep. Well, I don't think I've ever actually sat and explained it properly. So what I'm wanting to do just now is to go through some of what we have here. It shouldn't be too long. I hope to be done with this section maybe in about half an hour. It's not going to take too long because we'll go through. But then what I want to do is apply it to the game that we play on Monday. So I'll talk about it first and we'll stop. And we'll cut that and we'll go into a new section, at which case we'll put Angie Pops out of the game because she's in that Monday game. And we don't want any spoilers. And after we've done the prep for that, we're going to do a quick review of the Saturday campaign, which for D&D, which is coming back next week on the 13th or whatever date it is next week. 12th. Actually, hang on. I should know this. What date's next Saturday? 12th, right. So we're going to be doing... Hey, Lloyd, how's it going? We're going to be doing that in reference to the Monday game. So first of all, we're going to have a quick overview of the Sly Flourish Lazy GM method. And then we're going to talk about how that affects, and I'm going to go through the prep using that method for the Monday game. And then after that, we're going to be doing a review of the campaign. So the campaign review, I decided not to do the prep for the campaign because campaign prep and session prep are slightly different. And I really wanted to focus on the Monday game because it's happening first. So this will give you an idea. Now, we're going to talk a bit about that. Hey, some old pirate, how's it going? So first of all, as I said, we're going to be talking about this. This is the book. It's available for, I don't know, 15 quid or something. I don't even know how much it costs, but it is so worth it. When I find myself not wanting to think too much about the prep that I'm having to do because I have got no time to do it. Say something's happened during the week and I miss my usual midweek slot. I don't have any time to do it. It's Saturday afternoon. I'm playing a game. I've got to fit in between the family. I've got to get dinner. I've got the dog walks. I've got everything else going on, plus the prep for production, which I used to have to do as well, though thankfully IMT's taken a lot of that on. So time was really stretched, and I had to find I was looking for the minimum of what I could do whilst still being able to deliver what I hope the players round the table found to be an enjoyable experience. And certainly, hey Milnerver, that has been the case. So being able to prep and being able to prep well has really been something that I've tried to hone in my relatively short career as a games master. So the book that I found, and I was immediately attracted to the title, Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. So the fact that it's a sequel to a book that already exists, that's a given. But this Lazy Dungeon Master, and working smarter and not harder. What was it and it just really appealed to me. So I picked up the book and I read it, and I was so excited. I was thinking, yes, listen to this sort of thing. So let's have a look at some of this. Let's have a look at some of the actual book. If I press a few buttons now, let's see what happens. 2 monitors. I'm really feeling the pinch with 2 monitors, let me tell you. It's not easy. I usually have at least one there, plus another one there, or I'm in virtual reality. Not least there's 2 monitors, Lark. So what I've got is, if I go to the next one, there we go. It has the PDF. So something's obviously happened to this in terms of cam frames and such. Yeah. I didn't say it was going to be a technically adept stream. In fact, if you are listening only to this, you'll be probably enjoying it considerably more. And let me just quickly do something to jump back there, and also grab my cam over here as well. There we are. Ding. Go sit himself in the corner and make himself a bit smaller. There we are. And it looks like my green screen's off the pot as well. Good day, good day. Troy the cover model. Well, I wish I could be rich instead of this good looking. What can I say? Mike Shee is the producer of this. And some of you probably already know him. You've probably already seen his stuff. It just clicks with me. The reason why I like this so much, I'm going to see if I can quickly do it. I don't like the snow effect on my jumper. That is slightly off-putting. Let's just see if I can tweak that chroma key ever so slightly. Yay, green screen. There we go. That's better. We can have a... Yeah, that's better. Okay. So the idea here is that Michael Shee's been producing this stuff. He does a lot of adventures. He writes a lot of stuff. He's got his own stream. He's got his own YouTube series, I think. And does a lot of... He tweets a lot as well. So he's really active in the community. What is it that we're talking about here? So the idea, I think, the fundamental idea behind this type of prep is that a lot of time is spent prepping things that the players will never see. It's also trying to get the DMs and GMs away from prepping in a way that constrains the gameplay. It allows the preparation of material to be done in a way that can be improvised. And that's tricky because not everybody likes to improvise, but I think anybody who takes on the mantle of GM after a while realizes that it's not actually as difficult as all that. So even if you're just starting off and you think, oh, improvisation, I can't do it. But I know I'm talking to a room here with people that have done a lot more GMing than I. That doesn't put me off though, because not necessarily everybody here would go down the route that I do when it comes to this kind of prep. So looking at the prep, we've got this screen here. Let me see if I can just zoom it in a bit. Improv classes, GM. Everybody take improv classes. Yeah, or watch a lot of Whose Line Is It Anyway. That's something else you can do. I mean, if you are new to improv and you don't find talking bullshit natural to you, then you can learn to do it. It is a skill. It's like every other skill. If you practice it, you will get better. However, it's not just a case of immediately being able to pick something out of your arse. One more loose asset, bottom center, was covered by the cover. Not quite with you on that one, but... Oh, got you. I do see what you mean. A loose asset. Why have I got loose assets? They're all switched off? There we go. They're all switched off now. Okay. Let me get rid of that frame there and let me zoom into this a bit more. So I picked this. I picked this up on the bundle of holding, and it was part of the bundle of holding, and that alone was worth the money. But like I say, I already have the book. So Michael Shee's come up with this method which allows you to produce and focus on the things that are actually going to impact on the game. A lot of people I've seen, even in Infinite Monkey Tales, talk about doing things that I look at going, how do you have the time to do those things? Like, how do you have that amount of time? I'd love to have the amount of time that some people do to spend just on prep. It would mean I'd have to give up doing a lot of other things to make that time. And I don't want to have to give up all that time. I want to be able to do my prep, have fun, not get burnt out, and make an enjoyable game for everybody to play in, and hopefully for everybody to watch as well. So this is the idea here. It says that the book is for people who have experience. You need to have a little bit about a knowledge of what it is that a game of D&D is, or whatever your favourite game is. And although this is a dungeon master, it says in the title, very much this is about any principle game where there's the options for free form, free play, open world. We talked about sandboxes and theme parks and rails. It's that kind of game that this really does benefit. There may be things that you could do in order to fulfill something for the games, the investigative games that are typically shorter and result in people dying at the end of them. You know the ones I'm talking about. So this is a built into chapters, and the book itself is really accessible. You can just jump. Thank you very much for the sub, Keen, and thank you very much for your ongoing support of the community and everything, participating in all the games and the panels and offering and looking for all the stuff that you're doing. So thank you so much for that. Hey, and thank you for I get a 2020. I get Santa on a mobile. So thanks very much. Yeah, so you'll see here that the kind of thing that the cover in the book is it is possible just to jump in at any point. You don't have to go through the whole process. If this book is new to you and you've not seen it before, you don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can just dive in at any point and it will make sense. It really will make sense. Interestingly, just what we talked about there, prepare to improvise. That might even be Mike Shee's kind of catchphrase. I got it from somewhere. I didn't make that up. I just really liked it. So Prime in the GM's Brain, for example, there's a lot of stuff there about reading books, watching programs, absorbing plots and characters and mannerisms and all these kind of things. And it comes back to what Kadari was saying there about get yourself signed up for some improv classes somewhere. But what I'm interested in here are the kind of early stages here. This bit, the checklist. You can actually run a game. I've prepped one of our campaign games in the shortest time I've ever done it was probably about half an hour. And we streamed that game and we enjoyed that game as far as I could tell. At least people keep coming back. And off the back of those games as well, we've managed to set up the Infinite Monkey Tales community as well, which has gone from strength to strength. So here it is. Here's the meat of this. After me waffling on about it for so long, and I have really said, I have really covered this. The idea of getting to the utter core of what it is in the game that makes a game happen. It's not the stuff that we can do. If we've got extra time, sure, it's great. It's really about trying to get into, here it is, prepare what benefits your game. Prepare only that which benefits your game and that omit which does not. Omitting stuff when you're used to actually doing it is tricky. Getting rid of some of the stuff that you do might be writing, I don't know, copious NPC descriptions. When all your characters are really, and your players are only really going to be worried about is the importance of the items they have or the exposition that they could provide to forward the plot. It's very much about getting rid of, writing the full details. So the first thing that I do when I do the prep, now I write my prep out in a book. I step away from my computer. and I do all of my prep in a book like this, and you end up with writing just like that. And so I sit with the book. I sit with this book on one side if I need a refresher, and I sit with my notes, and I sit there and write. Sometimes if it's nice weather, I go outside. So the very, very, very quick things it is: review the characters. If you don't know who your characters are around the table, take time to learn them. Take time to learn who those characters are. Think about their names. Can you recite all of the character names of the characters around your table? Now, there are maybe exceptions to this because some people run lots of games and therefore you don't need to know who the characters are for a game that was on Thursday when you're talking about the game that's happening tomorrow. So those kind of memory issues might not be the issue here, but we're talking about, can you actually recall the character names of all of the players that have round the table? It really is the keep it simply stupid style of writing and building. And if you're not familiar with this, it'll resonate. Everything that you'll see here will resonate with just exactly, the KISS approach, the Kissly approach. So review the characters. Do you know who the characters are? Can you name them, their class, their abilities? Do you know about them in a way that can allow you just to, and you can't even remember people's names. That's why you're not. That's not why you're not yet a GM. But maybe with this method, you could be. So review the characters. Create a strong start. This is particularly important, I think, when you're streaming, but also when you're sitting around a table. The strong start could be the resolution of a very important cliffhanger. It could be a battle. It could be a thunderstorm. It could be anything that grabs your attention. The horses rampage into war through the streets of the town that you're trying to set up. This idea of a strong start grabs people, pulls them in, and it also gives an indication as to what's going to happen for the rest of the game. Now, sometimes our strong starts in our campaign don't actually happen at the beginning of the game because we maybe didn't get to the point where it was naturally going to happen. Well, that's okay. Play out the 20 minutes, the half an hour to get that resolution of what you were looking for, and then have a nice strong scene in there as well. So that idea of what's going to happen, that strong start, is really important. Outline potential scenes. Now, Angie asked me, was her character in our D&D campaign, did I railroad her? Did I railroad that character into that particular circumstance with that set of things happening? And we'll talk about them later on. No, I didn't. And I said that at the time. I really didn't. And I tell you why. Partly because the notes that I have, for our campaign go back so far. And in each of these notes and following this method, what I have is a list of the types of scenarios that they might be hitting. So, for example, in Spinork, which was a made-up town that existed in our campaign, we had a scenario in a forest town. There was industry. There was a castle. The potential scenario in a castle. There was a scene with crazed goblins. There was a forest shrine. There was back in town. Now I wrote maybe 6 scenarios, and all they are is 3 to 6 lines. Not even text type lines. Like you're talking maybe 30 words, 40 words, just to describe roughly what's going to happen in that scene. Just an outline so that when the players choose to zig instead of zag, you've got something there ready. Now, you know that scenario might lead to something particular. It might spin off, but you don't know which scenario they're going to take. And of course, they might not pick any of the scenarios that you have. So why bother massively writing out these huge and complex scenarios with giant long lists of plot twists and turns when you don't even know what your characters are going to be doing in the next half an hour? So this gives you enough to be able to pick the potential scenes that they might be, these players, these characters might be taking. Hey, Super Wolf Leo, how's it going? So we're going through the sly flourish method here, and then we're doing this bit quite quickly, and then we'll maybe, if anything comes up, if there are any questions, and I'm quite happy to talk a bit more. This one, define secrets and clues. I love this. This was probably my favourite part of helping me become a more confident DM. I've only been doing it for 3 years, maybe once a week. I had a little dalliance with being a DM back in the day when I was young, and also again when I was a student, a little bit older, but never serious, never for long. So really, I'm only counting the past few years. And this was a real light bulb moment to me. This was a real light bulb moment with me. Sly Flourish, Mike Shade suggests that you come up with 10 secrets that the players are going to uncover during your session. It gets harder to write them as you go down that list. It says if you write fewer than 10, then you might not be able to push or find enough to get on with. If you write more than 10, then you'll just end up with ideas that are not actually going to happen. So, how much detail do you prep for the secrets and clues? Do you reference parts of the world build and timeline? Yes. Now, so let's see. Let's just jump into my notes that I've pulled out from the secrets. Let me not go this far forward because some of the stuff is still relevant because they haven't found it yet. Some of the secrets I have here, some of the secrets, for example, okay, I can read this one because the players found it out. The dwarves helped, I'm not reading this verbatim because they haven't found out all of it, but the dwarves helped the dragon and built the palace. It's that simple. That's all it is. The dwarves, which dwarves? Well, we know in this case of the context of this campaign. Let's go further, a little bit back. Well, there's my Cthulhu Dark prep. Here's a scenario. Here's some encounters. Here's the front, strong start. There's the player secrets. One of the secrets is affable mind a giant gem. That's it. That's all the secret is. So at some point, the players might have talked to somebody to discover that a giant gem was mined. Now, does that matter? Is that relevant to the instant? It was certainly relevant to where they were in Thomgulur, which was the dwarfs there. But did they want that? If they found that out, that might have led to like, oh, a gem, that could be valuable. Dangle this secret in front of them. Did they want to pursue that? Well, no, they didn't. But it was mentioned, probably. One of the secrets was somebody is outside following them. That was the secret. It's not a great secret. It doesn't immediately tie a huge amount of exposition. It doesn't immediately link back to the world building timeline. Not every secret has to. Not every secret has to be that major amount of huge kind of drop of lore or whatever. So it was really simple. It was just that somebody was outside following. Now, they probably didn't find that out because the person that was following them was absolutely amazing. And in the end, they finally found the person. They didn't ask too much, didn't look around. So yeah, the secrets are really that straightforward. And what they do is they give you an opportunity to then think about, well, the scenarios that the scenes that you've created, feed the secrets back then. Do they loop back into any of the scenarios that you've built? You didn't miss it. I mean, you didn't miss necessarily anything. You got the chase. You got the chase. That was on the roof outside the, you were in Mirabar and you were in the dwarven run Harper's residence. So you didn't miss that because some old pirate's character was able to have that chase and that fight, and I'd written out the rules of the chase sequence just in case we needed to do it, and various complications and links. There are secrets about, for example, I wrote quite early on a secret that Caraptus's voice is, he uses the agents and he talks through them, and sometimes he watches. So that one did stick back to the world build and the timeline because Caraptus was and is the big bad guy. But they found somebody and they interrogated them and they found that out. But the point about the secrets is, the point about creating the secrets is you never actually know when or where or who is going to deliver them. You never actually know at what point one of those secrets is going to be discovered. You only know that they are there, and that's why they shouldn't be complicated, because you have to remember them and pull them out your hat as you go. Looking back over your notes, do the players always discover every secret that you've got? No. Do they need to? No. Depends on the game you're running, I guess. Does it help you to give the players a sense of excitement in the story? Well, yeah, because as a DM, you're trying to provide pace, so you want to have these things happen, and it can give you, as a DM, the option to interleave 2 secrets or 3 secrets at once, and you can have them chasing. So the idea of the potential secrets is a great one. What's said very briefly about this? The next step is second only importance to the strong start and is the most powerful tools available to the lazy dungeon masters. Secrets and clues are single short sentences that describe a clue, a piece of the story, or a piece of the world that the characters can discover during the game. You don't know exactly how the characters will discover these clues, and as such, you'll want to keep these secrets and the clues abstract from their place of discovery, so that you can drop them into the game wherever it makes sense. This lets the game flow freely while still allowing you to reveal important pieces of the story at any point where the characters might discover them. During this step, you might write down 10 such secrets or clues. So wouldn't these secrets also help make the world feel more lived in? So yes, in the sense that there are always things going on that the players don't know about. And I've borrowed from a different series to bring that idea through. The idea of fronts and thinking a little bit about what the bad guys are doing and what the world is. But yes, and in terms of the actual world being lived in, there are always things going on because the world exists in our minds as players, and as what in the case of streamed games, the world exists in your minds as well. And yeah, so the secrets can come from players. We talked a bit about this on Monday as well. There's no harm in listening to some of the fears, and the players know you do this. And as a player, you know the GM does it. But if you say something, the GM's sitting there going, "And we'll use that next week, or maybe the week after, or maybe 3 weeks," and then they'll forget that they ever said it. So that's secrets and clues, and I think if you this is the interesting point. When I figured this out, and when I DM'd my first Cthulhu game, which is an investigative type game, I realised that there wasn't really that much difference between the D&D in that regard and say Cthulhu Dark. There are other differences, obviously, but in that regard, I saw a way of a much closer method to run 2 different game styles. So that's something there. To find secrets and clues, really important and great fun as well. But it is tough to come up with 10. You might think that it's easy, and it maybe is sometimes, and sometimes you're really but when you struggle to think of them, you always come up with your best ideas. You always come up with your best ideas when you've done the obvious ones, you've got them out of the way, the secrets, and then you're like, shit, I need 2 more. And that's why 10 is a good number. It seems to work. Develop fantastic locations. I am not as good at this as I would like to be. I'd like to be better at this. I don't think I do badly, but I still think I'd like to be better at this. Building evocative locations is not something you can do on the fly, and especially when you're playing on a VTT with a kind of you've set up maps and you've made a rod for your back. Whereas if you're doing it theatre of the mind, then yeah, you get away with that. So getting a mixture of theatre of the mind, and then also getting the idea of the maps that are given on Roll20, which I use, or if you're on Foundry, Forge, whatever, then obviously you've got stuff going on there, but then other people use other systems. So I think a mixture of using, getting away from having a map for everything is quite good. I just love maps. I love maps. I love the imagination that goes into drawing them, and I love then looking at them from my perspective and thinking about, well, that's an amazing map, but what happened in there? Why is that there? What's that? How did this get here? What's that? And I love that problem-solving aspect of it. But anyway, so the idea here is that you have fantastic locations. You make places evocative. You make them memorable. You make them exciting. You make them dangerous. You make them just stand out. You can't do it all the time. You cannot do it all the time. You have to have pace. You have to have balance. What you're saying, working with staff players session, heavily stars and wishes, which in the book, but something like she talks about, but kind of yeah, cool. I need to, like I say, I'm relatively new to the world of DMing. I found this book and it just totally clicked with me. So yeah, I would quite happily check out anything else that guy talks about. Everyone's mean to the DM in this way. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's a horrible time. Mark wants not to use maps. Keen doesn't want to use maps, but I love maps. I really love maps. I just love looking at maps. To me, it helps me motivate myself. It helps me think about scenarios. It helps me think about the players. So it really helps me when I'm a DM. It just keeps me going. But having said that, fantastic locations, unless you can make your own map from your own imagination, it does become a little bit tricky to find exactly what you're looking for. Where the theatre of the mind becomes really important. Like I didn't have a map for the outside of Sister Gariel's lair. I didn't have a map for that. I had a snowfield map, but I had to describe and use theatre of the mind because there was no way I could get a map that would describe how fucking vast that place was. Like I just couldn't do it. It wouldn't work. So yeah, loads more maps. You don't like grid battles. Yeah, we use them, and it sometimes keeps an idea of what's happening. But maps are important in a stream game because it gives the viewer something to look at. Yeah, I'd agree with that too. But yeah, I would when I play games on the tabletop, which I do, we still use maps, but not to the extent that we do. But and pictures as well. Good pictures. We have done that. I've done that with pictures where I've just found some pictures that I think look good, and then I've photoshopped them a little bit. That's within my skills. But anyway, the idea. So rather than getting into the semantics of maps versus not maps, theatre of the mind, etc. But also, it's not really semantics. The words mean what they mean. But rather than getting the detail of it, we're talking about the fantastic locations. The important thing here is that you develop your fantastic locations. If you have the time to get a map afterwards, fantastic. If you want to use maps afterwards, fantastic. If not, and even if you're using maps, you're still going to have to know how to describe those maps. Even if you're given a theatre of the mind, you're still going to have to say that on each side of the 30-foot wide staircase that leads up the mountainside, which is covered in dark grey stone with huge stone pillars up the side that reach up to the sky and disappear into the clouds, you're still going to have to be able to pull that description out and tell what that is so people get a picture in their mind, even if they're looking at a map, because the maps are usually top-down. So specific locations. Get those ready. However you want to get them ready, get them ready. And it's not something that's easily improvised, although it's much easier to improvise if you're doing theatre of the mind. Okay, so that's one of the things there. Outline important NPCs. People playing games love your NPCs. So, and it's also as a DM, it's a great opportunity for you to have the opportunity to really just have a bit of a laugh or come out something really serious, something really evil, whatever it happens to be. So the maps, the NPCs there are an opportunity. So it's just a case, and I think everybody probably does this, but the questions and what goes into detail here is how deep do you go? Remember, we're not got a lot of time here. A name, very brief description. If you're doing accents, then what kind of accent they have, and maybe you're going to base them on somebody you know. Who knows how you do the NPCs? There's loads of guides separately about NPCs, so we'll not spend too much time on NPCs. But this is just to say that as part of this checklist, as part of this method, you've got this option to think about your NPCs and jot them down quickly. I usually have a handful just ready, even just random name generators on another screen when I'm playing, so I can pull one off the list if I need to. Obviously, now we get into D&D territory, choosing the relevant monsters. I like doing this. I do this with my son quite often when I'm playing D&D, if I'm not using a scripted adventure. I do this with my son, and we have a chat. He looks through the D&D books, comes up with ideas, and sometimes I pick them and go with it, and sometimes I don't because it's just not going to work. But why are the monsters there? Why do the people find them? I don't like the whole thing about you walk into a cavern. There are 6 rooms in the cavern. They're joined by naturally hewn stone that's been dug out by the water over decades of the tide coming in and out. And then you've got a group of goblins in one, and you've got the hobgoblins in the other, and you attack one, but the other ones don't hear, that kind of stuff. So depending on how you want to pick your NPCs, populate them in the locations that you've got, and away you go. So I love taking time to look through the monster manuals and look online and look for look. That's a little bit of a luxury. Maps are good, but not necessarily if it's random encounter. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Although maybe less so when I'm streaming, because I like to have multiple locations to signify that as well for chat to watch. But NPCs make a session. Yeah. Definitely. I love NPCs and mucking about with them. I think it's funny that one of my most memorable NPCs recently has been the one that speaks like that. Just because she looked like an absolutely stunningly beautiful blonde elven lady. And when I came out with that accent, people were just like, what? So it kind of helped. And you like the physical mannerisms for NPCs and monsters. It's something that you can't really translate to your purely virtual playtime this year. Only because you don't have a camera. You can still get away with that when you've got a camera. And that voice. So Angie knows who I'm talking about. Yeah, so relevant monsters anyway. Relevant monsters and the kind of thing. And you can look on, like I sometimes use Kobold Fight Club just as an aid to give me some ideas if I'm struggling. We've got the improvisation of the monsters and the scenes, and we're not getting into the territories of like combat ratings and D&D and calculating number of points. That doesn't matter. You need to know your players. You need to know how they fight. You need to know what challenges them. Like I had a ranger, Charlotte, thank you, who was an absolute genius at escaping trouble. I mean, he knew me, he knew the game, he knew his character, and the kind of things, as a new GM, it was really difficult for me to get him. I got him, don't worry, I got him, but not nearly as much as I got the players in the front. But I was learning, and I learned that actually, in terms of choosing relevant monsters, you have to think out the box sometimes. And that's why I love having a 6-year-old next to me. Because the stuff he comes out with is fantastic. But anyway, yeah, whatever type of enemy, read through the books and monsters, give you fuel to choose the right, look at websites, all this kind of stuff. Find the monsters, find ones that are challenging, difficult, not impossible. Obviously, you make it too difficult, it's not fun. You make it too easy, it's not fun. If you are playing a game that has combat, like D&D, then you're going to want to find something that's challenging. And that's game design. That's making a game that is challenging and and there is peril and threat. There might even be a chance of players getting killed, but if you're killing players every other session, unless it's Cthulhu, but if it's in D&D and you're killing players every other session, unless that's really what the table wants and what the game wants, because there's always exceptions. But if you are playing the heroic fantasy game where the people rise from relative zeros up to heroes, then you probably don't want to be killing them off all the time. So pick your monsters wisely. And that's a tricky one. Get the balance there, pick the right number, the right strategy, look at their spells, review them. Or if you're completely running out of time because you're following this method, then pick ones because they look cool and then read the descriptions on the fly while the players are having a planning meeting in the game to discuss how they're going to defeat them. That's a different story. Yeah, so then you've got rewards, and it suggests that you have rewards, and there always should be rewards. Whether they're always magic items or not really does depend on the nature of your world. If you have a high magic world, sure, why not? It's a magic item every game, yay. If it's a low magic world, then it's not going to be that, but maybe it's a clue towards one or something. But it depends again. A lot of these kind of things really depend on the type of table you have, the type of game you're running, the type of GM you are, the players, etc. And then, yeah, this is it. I mean, that at that level, that's the first kind of 4 pages or something, and it's covered enough that you can use to really think about how the game could be set up. And yeah, exactly. Utility magic item, stuff that's not directly powerful, but magic treasure, fun stuff. Charlotte got an exploding rune. An exploding rune stone had to add water. And he kept hold of that for months, and then eventually he got the opportunity to use it, and he blew up a bridge while he was getting pursued, and he just loved it. He felt so happy about doing that, and it was a fairly relatively innocuous type of thing, one use only. But there you go. So the checklist, Mike Shea, Lazy Dungeon Master checklist. It works whether you're doing a published adventure or your own homebrewed. But the value there is really just to try and inspire you into coming up with your own ideas and not being overwhelmed by the task of being a GM. Russ murdered you. Oh yeah, there's a game of Among Us going on just now. So, and it would have to be Russ, by the way, because we've played games with Russ. We know what she's like, so that's all right. So the Lazy Dungeon Master goes into a lot more detail in this book, and this is fantastic. This is all the stuff that we've talked about. I'm not going to go over it again. There's a lot more detail, a lot more nuance than I've been able to get across. But I hope for this particular part of this particular session, I've given you enough to think about. Actually, that sounds like it could be worth a read if you aren't already aware of it. And if you are a new GM, or if you are somebody who, like me, has not got a lot of time, then maybe this will help you focus on that which is required to run a successful game of Dungeons and Dragons. The book itself is not a difficult read, and I've read it so many times just to keep trying to get it ground into the way that I think. There are things that I have adapted over and above this book. There are things I don't necessarily agree with when I look into the detail, but on the whole, I really have. It's massively influenced the way that I run my game of Dungeons and Dragons and the way that I prepare for it. And it's made it more fun. It's made it something that I really look forward to, because if I can get this stuff done, I can then go off and do the more fun things. But if I don't have enough time on the Saturday or the Tuesday night or the Monday, whenever it is, then it's okay, because I know I've got enough to run a game. And as long as I'm not absolutely beat after staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning playing a tabletop role-playing game the night before, it's probably going to go quite well. And even then, even if I am knackered, then the players can often not really notice too much and think that it's all good fun anyway and keeps us coming back. So, if you've enjoyed or found any sort of encouragement or just interest in what I've been talking about, then please do pick up this book, buy the hard copy, get it on PDF somewhere, probably from Mike Shea's website or something. You'll see that there's a lot more detail here. I'm just quickly flicking through. There's a lot of stuff here that we just haven't talked about, but I want you really to just go and have a think about it and have a look and read it for yourself, and maybe we can have a talk about it in the GM section on the Infinite Monkey Tales site. So that is that part of this particular presentation. That's the overview of the Lazy GM's stuff. So there we go. It's up. Thank you very much, Kadari, for putting that link in place. That's the first hour of tonight, and what I'm going to do now is quickly stop the stream. But I'm going to be right back. I just want to do it because it saves something to do post-production editing. I'm just quickly going to stop the stream, change the stream title, and then we're going to go into doing the prep for the game on Monday. And you'll see me using some of the techniques that we've just been talking about. But I'm doing it online this time, so I won't be using my notebook as such. I'll be doing the equivalent on there. So Monday players, no peeking. Oh, and also anybody who is currently running through the Ghosts of Saltmarsh campaign, no peeking, because that's what we're using. You play a game on Monday. It's not this game. So unless you're doing Ghosts of Saltmarsh and you're at the very beginning of it, then don't watch the next half hour. Right, I will be right back.